My name is Furst, and this is my persuasive speech. So these are all examples of commonly used disposable water bottles at Wake Forest. So throughout our 4 years here, we're probably going to use well over 100 of these. And that turns out to be a lot of bottles. So I could show you tons of pictures of landfills all across the earth, but instead, to hit home and make it more personal, I'll show you this. This was a news article, Fox 8 News from Winston-Salem, January 8th of this year, that Winston-Salem at its peak was producing so much trash that one neighborhood had to wait 3 weeks for it to be picked up by the sanitation department. I think that's a huge problem, but I also think that Wake can help create a solution for this. So the problem is that Wake Forest students are more likely to use excessive amounts of disposable water bottles. The solution is that the administration should ban the sale of these on campus indefinitely. So I think that this will help to address a problem of usage. So according to a Washington Post article last year, 2015, the average American person consumed the equivalent of 35 gallons of water each year in disposable water bottles, which equates to about 270 water bottles per person, with only 70 of those being efficiently and effectively recycled, leaving the other 200 of them to end up in landfills. Next is a problem of convenience. So many of these water bottles they have incredibly effective marketing campaigns. Nestle, which I'm sure everyone recognizes, is one of the top. And their campaign revolves around water bottles not being an alternative to tap water, but being an alternative to soda, which makes it seem much more healthier in the eyes of the consumers. And the next point is one about convenience. So I went on Wikipedia and I typed in available bottled water brands in the US. And you have to go through 119 pages of possible brands that are available for sale in the US. So these brands are literally everywhere. Next, it's become a problem of cost. So if you look at the US, which is the 4th country down, it costs us a little over 2 cents to make a plastic water bottle, which means that we have become incredibly effective at making them. But that may not be a good thing. An article in The Economist from last year, it talks about the hidden costs of recycling. Recycling has actually gotten very, very expensive in the last couple of years, and that's not something that consumers internalize when they first buy the product. And last is a problem of myths. So we assume that once we recycle something, it gets renewed somewhere and turns into something sustainable. But that may not be the case. So to hit home again, in the Winston-Salem Journal last year, this is a picture of the new Duke Energy landfill, which is currently being built just outside I-40 East. And because we produce way too much for it to be effectively recycled in time, it's often stockpiled, which are basically just big bags of plastic water bottles, which is where they'll end up from all the waste from Winston-Salem. So, what can Wake Forest do? An administrative ban would have 4 main points behind it. The first of which is that it would build on itself. There are tons of campus events where you can get a free reusable water bottle, but if you choose to go out and buy your own, using it may make you feel like you're getting your worth out of it. The second is it's a collective action. It can be undertaken from students to the professors in an entire campus-wide effort. Third, it would align the interests of Wake Forest with those of our peer institutions in the top 25. Many of them have already started or successfully completed campaigns just like this. And lastly, it would be incredibly encouraging for prospective students if you were on a tour, instead of just hearing, yeah, Wake Forest recycles just like every other school you visited, it would be actually instead Wake Forest has banned the sale of plastic water bottles. So is this a viable solution? And do we actually have the infrastructure in place for this? So this is appropriately called a hydration station in its formal definition. We just know them as water fountains. And they're ran by the Wake Forest Office of Sustainability. And in their last report from 2015, they said that these have been a huge success. And they were building 2 to 3 each year, ever since 2010. I personally have never had to wait in too long of a line to get to one of these, which makes me think that Wake Forest actually has the infrastructure in place to start this campaign tomorrow if we wanted. So who would help us implement this? There's actually an organization called Ban the Bottle, and it promotes the environment by advocating bans on one-time use plastic water bottles. They're incredibly specific to college campuses, and they help fund the initiatives that they want to start. And so they have helped Brown, Cornell, Dartmouth, Harvard, Princeton, Berkeley, Wisconsin, and over 130 other schools create and run campaigns just like this. And what they do is that they come in and they work directly with the administration to create a fine-tuned step-by-step plan that includes everything from the financing to the logistics. And so I want to cover 3 examples of campaigns just like this to prove that Wake Forest can actually do this. So the first of which comes from a New York Times article in 2010 that stated the University of Wisconsin, a huge school that is massive to Wake by any standard, completed and ran a campaign just like this. Second, in the UK, suffrages, think of it as like a Nordstrom or a Neiman Marcus, they have completely banned the sale of plastic water bottles in their food courts. And instead, they've created water fountains, and they encourage their customers and their guests to come in and fill up their reusable water bottles rather than go into their food court and buying a plastic water bottle. And lastly, an entire city. So from an article from MSNBC from March 13th of last year, San Francisco will effectively ban the sale of plastic water bottles within the city limits by 2018, which gives food vendors and some restaurants a chance to acclimate in 3 years. So bringing everything together, if a huge state school, if a huge department store brand, and a literal city can do this, I think the weight can too. The amount of waste that we produce each year is not sustainable. An administrative ban would be deliberate, it is shown to be effective in the past, and it would be collectivized to make sure that this does not become our commonplace future. Thank you.